Dr. Michael Swango, Dr. Death, is currently serving 3 consecutive life terms without parole, although he was only convicted of 4 deaths. He is suspected of poisoning at least 60 patients and colleagues. Born in Tacoma, Washington, and raised in Quincy, Illinois, October 21st, 1954, by his mother and father, who was a captain in the Army. Swango served in the Marine Corps, graduating from recruit training at Marine Corps in San Diego. He received an honorable discharge in 1976. He graduated from Quincy summa cum laude and was given the American Chemical Society Award before going to medical school at Southern Illinois University School of Medicine. During his time at SIU, he showed troubling behavior. He was a brilliant student, preferred to work as an ambulance attendant rather than concentrate on his studies. Members of the faculty noticed he had a morbid fascination with dying patients. Even though they observed his fascination with death, they didn't notice all of Swango's assigned patients ended up coding or suffering life-threatening emergencies, with at least 5 of them dying. During his time at SIU, he showed no interest in his studies and was nearly expelled for faking an obgyn rotation. After the school reluctantly let him graduate, and with a very poor evaluation in his dean's letter from SIU, Swango still managed to get a surgical internship at Ohio State University Medical Center in 1983, to be followed by a residency in neurosurgery. While working at the teaching hospital, healthy patients wound up dying at an alarming frequency. Each time Swango had been the floor intern, one nurse caught him injecting some medicine into a patient who later became strangely ill. After his internship finished, they pulled his residency, but it later transpired that the board members of the hospital thought he might sue, so they pushed him out quietly. In July 1984, Swango returned to Quincy and began working as an emergency medical technician with the Adams County Ambulance Corps, even though he had been fired from an ambulance service for making a heart patient drive to the hospital. Several colleagues began noticing that anytime he made the coffee or brought food in, they all got mysteriously ill. Their concerns were confirmed when he was caught with arsenic and other poisons in his possession. He received 5 years in prison for aggravated assault on his co-workers. After his release in 1989, he struggled to hold down a job and always found himself getting fired for his strange behavior. He managed to get a job as a laboratory technician. While working there, a number of his co-workers reported to the hospital for unexplained stomach ailments, but nobody suspected a thing. By 1991, he was married and had changed his name legally so he could forge documents that would see him get a job as a physician at Sanford Medical Center. Swango established a sterling reputation at Sanford, but made the mistake of attempting to join the American Medical Association. The AMA did a more thorough background check than Sanford and found out about the poisoning conviction. Around the same time, the Discovery Channel aired an episode of Justice Files that included a segment on Swango and his crimes. He was quickly dismissed from the hospital, and his new wife Kinney left him. At the time of their marriage, she began suffering severe migraines, but they soon stopped after she left him. Kinney later killed herself, and during her autopsy, the examiner found arsenic in her system. Swango went on the lam, and the AMA lost track of him. They soon discovered that he got another job at the psychiatric residency program at the Stony Brook University School of Medicine. He was placed in the medicine department at the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Northport, New York. Once again, his patients began dying for no reason. By now, the FBI were looking into his activities and managed to get a warrant for his arrest for forging documents. But Swango was one step ahead of them and fled to Zimbabwe. When he arrived, he rented a room in Bulawayo from a widowed woman who subsequently became violently sick after a meal she had prepared for herself and a friend. The doctor who the woman consulted suspected it to be arsenic poisoning and sent her hair off to be tested. After it had been confirmed that toxic levels of arsenic were present, it was handed over to the police, who informed Interpol and the FBI. Swango fled again into Namibia and applied for a doctor's position in Saudi Arabia before getting arrested while trying to board a flight. To stop investigators looking into his activities in Zimbabwe, Swango pled guilty to defrauding the government, and in July 1998, he was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. The sentencing judge ordered that Swango not be allowed to prepare or deliver food, or have any involvement in preparing or distributing drugs. The FBI knew Swango was a serial killer, but knew it would be almost impossible to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They didn't have much time to prove it, knowing Swango would be out on good behavior. They feared if he got out he would go on to kill again, so used the time to build a case against him. Investigators exhumed the bodies of 3 patients and found poisonous chemicals in samples taken from the bodies. They also found evidence that Swango paralyzed patient Baron Harris with an injection of what was supposedly a sedative. The sedative caused him to lapse into a coma, and Harris died on November 9, 1993. They also found evidence in another patient who had died under Swango's care. 3 weeks before he was due to be released from prison, they were able to charge him with murder. At the same time, Zimbabwean authorities charged him with poisoning 7 patients, 5 of whom died. With the realization that he could be extradited to Zimbabwe to face charges of murder and was looking at the death penalty, he agreed to a plea deal, and in 2000, Judge Missouri sentenced Swango to 3 consecutive terms of life without parole. He is incarcerated at ADX Florence near Florence, Colorado.